Hello and welcome to Toffee's service again. My name is Bård. I am like a hobby enthusiast. I work with tech support, but I also like to just fiddle with some computers at home and stuff. Build my own computers, and in general I don't really like water cooling because I had a really bad experience a few years back. I bought a really expensive Sound Blaster audio card for my computer. It cost me about $300 just for the card. And then I also bought a Sapphire card with like a small radiator. No, it didn't have a radiator on it. It had like a small water container on it. And everything was just integrated onto the system itself, both the pump, the reservoir, and everything. And it was like a one unit with water cooling. But a few months passed, and I started getting stability problems, and it caused when I took my computer and turned it upside down, there was like water pouring all over the floor. I was really new to water cooling and never done it before, so I didn't really understand why this happened. It turns out there was like a micro fracture in the cooling block under that goes just on the GPU, and this was just leaking slowly over time, and it totally destroyed one of the Sound Blaster sound card I had just bought that was new. And because you do this on your own risk, you don't really get anything on warranty when that happens. So I wasted a lot of money, and I decided I would never ever buy another water cooling system. But stuff has changed, and that was like 15 years ago. So I've sworn to a new brand. It's Noctua. So on my main system I have a Noctua DH-10, I think it's called, and it comes originally with two 140mm fans, and it keeps it quite cool. But I bought another 120mm fan to put in the front because the 140 cannot fit on top of the RGB memory modules I have on my motherboard on my main computer, and it keeps it stable on full load at 50 degrees with just air cooling. So I kind of like it, and it's really silent. I don't know if you can even hear it now, but it's like 3 inches from my microphone. Anyway, I also have a server computer which I use when I stream. It's kind of an old setup. It's an old motherboard. It's called let me see, MSI 990FXA-GD80. And I just have an old FX Radeon 6870 graphics card there, and the CPU is on AMD FX 8350, which is known to be one of the better AMD CPUs back in those days. But that one I had only that Wrath cooler on, and it sounded like a jet engine whenever I was streaming in the background, and it's not really good. So I decided I will try one of those AIO coolers, all-in-one coolers. My decision fell on a iCUE H100i RGB PRO XT. Hang on a second. So here's for the camera. This is the cooler I have, and it has, originally it comes with 2 fans and a radiator, and you can use it for several CPUs, and it's a 240mm radiator. The fans on this is actually really cool when you just run two of them. And you can actually buy the fans separately as well, which is what I did. I bought these separately. ML120 Corsair. And yeah, so I installed 2 extra of those because I wanted to have a push and pull configuration of my fans. I'm just gonna lift the camera here a bit so you can see. So here you see the inside. These are the pull fans, and I can just tilt the computer a bit so you can see. On top here you can see I have the other 2 fans on the front. Don't worry, the system is not powered on, so it's fine. But one of the things I wanted was to have, as I said, 4 fans on the system, on the radiator itself, to keep it as cool as possible. Because this CPU that I have is known to go really hot. I think it was about 70 or 80 degrees when I was using it with the Wrath cooler. It's crazy. That's why the Wrath cooler also was running at full speed, because it couldn't cool it enough. So I hooked that up and I decided to try and connect these 4 fans. But then I realized when I got the cooler unassembled that it comes with only 2 PWM sockets. These 2. And it has 4 pins, and it has 4 pins. One of them you can see here is labeled 1, and the other one has no labels, so I call it number 2. And then it has a separate cable here with just 1 wire, and this is what's called a TAC, I think, cable. Basically this cable is supposed to get the TAC signal from the motherboard, or send the TAC signal to the motherboard. I'm not quite sure which one it is, but yeah, as I told you, I'm not really good with this because it's kind of new to me, but I'm making this video to explain what I found out with all the testing I did. So I wanted to use 2 extra fans. The problem was I only have outlet for 2 fans. And I decided, okay, I can just split it with a pwm-fan header. So I bought this, which is a Deepcool. You see there, it says Deepcool Fh-10 Fan Hub. And it's really simple. It has 10 PWM connectors. One of the port number 1 is made so that it will read the PWM signal from the motherboard, and it will split that and just replicate it to all other fans you have in your system. And in theory it sounds really, really good and could potentially work. What I found was that when you have an AI cooler like this, it's more difficult because of the way the signaling works in it. And you cannot connect these because these are male connectors. They have pins inside, and you plug it into the female connectors that look like this, which have holes in it. So this is a female connector because you plug stuff into it. I know. Male and female. So I just put all the cabling in, and everything was really pretty. See, I used wire cabling, everything. This is a Cooler Master Evo XP, I think it is. Yeah, it's one of those square cases. It's awesome because the motherboard is laying, so everything is resting on the motherboard. Nothing is hanging or anything. So I like it. And I have kind of an oversized Corsair power supply. Just because I can, and just because I like these power supplies. I wanted to get the 1200 one, but it's impossible to get anymore. And it's really hard to get this. I found this in one of the shops and I just jumped on it. Web shops. So I have connected the cooler. The radiator is on the inside here with the pull configuration fans and the push configuration fans on the outside. And the I/O is given SATA power from this cable, and it has these two and these three. Yeah, and then the Deepcool, I have placed a strap here at the back so it can connect. So when you connect it, it looks really smooth, hidden away like that. And the cable management makes it look really smooth afterwards. But the problem was it didn't work. I couldn't get the fans to run correctly with this. So I did a lot of trial and errors to get this to work, and that is sort of what I'm going to explain to you guys today on how I did and what I did. So yeah. So the first setup I used looks something like this. I call it configuration 1. I put one CPU. I have one CPU fan header on my motherboard, and that is sort of the limitation I have. I cannot put the I/O to another one or something like that. And I wanted to connect this to the connector of the CPU on the motherboard. So if you see here, the I/O, the PWM connector is here, and the connector on the Deepcool is here, and it's labeled like that. Let me see if I can zoom it in a bit. You see that this is where it plugs in. And then in addition to this, you have fan port 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And below here you always have SATA power connected, which I had. So SATA goes here. That's port 1, which is supposed to control the fan speed. So using this unit here, you will only be able to get one fan to show, because everything is registered as the same fan. Okay. It's not like a professionally made video, so I apologize for that, but it should get across the message I'm trying to say. So the setup was basically one CPU fan header connects to the normal FH-10 fan header CPU connector, so it would connect for here. Two of the fans connect to fan 1 and fan 2 on the FH-10. So one fan and one fan. And the two other fans would connect to the I/O's header, which is basically this and this. Then you have the TAC connector, which is this. I connected that to port 5 here, or it could be any other port on the thingy. And the SATA power, of course, was also connected. Goes for all the trials and errors here. And the I/O had its own SATA power connector. And I have four fans. So that's the setup of the first test. So now I'm just gonna replicate that again and show you guys. So let me see, I'll just turn back to my other overview here. This is Deepcool. Place that on the socket of the motherboard, like so. And then two fans connect to fan 1 and 2 on the FH-10. So that would be these two. I don't know which is the fan 1. Yeah, that's one. You can see on the front side of this there is like a speed signal, so you know that's where it goes, and it's also labeled 1 and 2 and 3. So those go in there, and that one goes in there. It's kind of a tight fit here. And the other two headers on this should go into here. There. And then we have the TAC connector, should go into number 5, which I used here when I tested this. This one has a little bit of like, it's kind of the pins on the side is kind of high, so you have to angle it to get it inside the hub before you sort of put it onto the pins. And you cannot really put it wrong because it's 3 pins, but it only fits onto the exact same pins. Okay, so that is connected as I described on the schematics. The result on this connection was that 2 of the fans connected directly to the AOR PWM control, and the other 2 goes at full speed. So I'm just going to show you when I turn on the system what happens, so you can see. And I'm not sure, I don't remember which one were which, but we can try. So I turn on the power. So the fans spin up. And it seems that the 2 that are in push configuration on the front are the 2 I connected to the I/O. Because these 2 on the inside are ramping up. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's just increasing. It's like a jet engine. 2 at the back. Are still going slow. So that's the setup I ended up with on that test, which wasn't sufficient for what I needed. So that was configuration 1 test. Now the second recording, the second configuration I tried to do looked something like this. I'm just going to zoom in a bit. I changed up a little bit. So on this, 4 fans connect to port 1, 2, 3, 4. As you can see here. 2, 3, and 4. My initial assumption was that the signal from the fans would go through the FH-10, the hub, and to the I/O. The I/O TAC is going to port 5, as before. SATA was powered, and the first fan here I connected to port 1. And the CPU header on the FH-10 was connected to the CPU header on the motherboard, just like this. So I'm going to connect that setup and show you what happens. So all the fans, ports 1, 2, 4. I have a little bit of a tight cable management here, so it's kind of hard to get these in, but it's so pretty. Okay, got those in. And in this scenario, I did not connect these because I wanted everything to run from this. And CPU header is connected still to the motherboard. I didn't remove that, and the TAC connector is connected to the fifth here. So, do you think it would work? Let's see. Let's turn on the power. Inner fans. Inner fans, outer fans. So here you can see the fans are in push, and this is in pull configuration. And I think you can hear it now. Put my mic on it. It's nasty. In the iCUE inside the Windows, it actually says they are doing 4,000 rounds per minute, but I don't think so. I think it's more like 2,500. I think that's what they are spec'd for. Let me see. What does it say on the package? Yeah, 2,400 RPM is like the max, but these are basically getting no throttling at all, so they're just taking all the power I need and just trying to go full speed. So my discovery on those were that all fans will go without PWM control, which is not something I can live with, because it sounds like having a jet engine in your house and it's not actually doing anything. So why do I think this happened? Well, I don't really have an idea, since the FH-10 should be getting both tactical signal and from the fans, and that should go to the I/O, since I have it connected here. Cabling wise, if you connect everything together here inside my case, it's really smooth, really nice, clean, everything. So that was that configuration. So configuration 2. Yep. So continuing on, we are gonna check the third configuration that I tested. This fancy actually, I don't want to break the cables. Bloody hell! Loosen, damn it! So, outs and outs with this, and that was also out. Okay, so I have a third configuration. Looks like this. And this I made a little bit homemade stuff. This is a TAC splitter. This is a normal PWM extension cable, and when you put it on this pin here, the third pin is the TAC signal, and it's the only one that gets a signal out here. So I was thinking, what if I could split the TAC signal so that both the let me see, so both the Deepcool hub and the splitter cable would both get it. So you see here, I went in, I disassembled this this extension cable, and I soldered, like a DIY project here, I soldered this one to pin 3. So basically it also gets the signal from pin 3. So the pin 3 signal, which is the TAC signal, will basically go to both this and this. It actually works. Trust me, it works. I've tested. But it doesn't really work in the way I wanted it to, but we'll get to that. So the configuration of this is as follows. I connect the TAC splitter, as I call it, to the CPU header, and then I take the tax signal from the AO and connect it to the extra one I solder on. So it only gets the 3-pin signal that it actually requires. Because technically, if you think about it, when this cable is connected to the motherboard, tax signal sends and go back and forth. It should also work because it would basically be like connecting this directly to the motherboard through this. Okay? And I also wanted the signal to go to the Deepcool from here. But the Deepcool has 2 cables on its connection. I can show you. Give me a second. I know the third one on the Deepcool is the tax signal. I think the fourth one is what does it say? Does it say anything here? TKG. You see here it says, hard to see on the camera, but the middle one says TKG and the other one says 2510. I have no idea what that means. The pin 1 is the one here, and the third one there is the tax signal. And then it has a 4th pin. I think I looked it up in schematics, but I haven't checked it. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, but my initial thought was that I connect the Deepcool like this to the main connector. Need to make sure they are in. Like that, and then the tax signaling from the AO would go into the other one, like so. Basically, the tax signal should now be split. There's no other cables from it, and the other side of this one would go into the motherboard. Like so. And so we have now connected this, this, and this. And this one is connected to here. And we have connected this one to the motherboard. Basically splitting the tax signal that goes back and forth. My idea was that that would be sufficient for the AO to understand where the hell the fan were. But well, I connected each of the fan. I was thinking, okay, I need one of the fans to give the tax signal. It's supposed to read like the 2 rounds per minute or 2 rounds per something about the fan spins 2 times and then the tax signal is sent out or something like that. And that needs to go through the pin 1. So I connected one of the fans to pin 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the Deepcool. And I thought, okay, I've done it. That should work because it just sends further the tactical signal. So we'll just reconnect those. There. And where's the pin 1? That's the pin 1. Let's see. It's easier when once you get one of them in, because then you can just lean on the other one. So I think they made it like this so it shouldn't slide out during use or something. So it's kind of hard to get it in the sockets sometimes. Just make sure you don't bend it, then you are screwed. Like so. So all the 4 fans are now connected, starting with fan number 1 here. And don't think I connected these now. I/O power connectors are unused because I didn't actually think I needed this signal since everything goes through this. because I couldn't really see the need for this. When the fans are coming here, they're sending the tach signal because the tach signal is connected to the same pathways. So in my head that sounded like a logical thing. So now let's see what happens. Put it up. Put the power. There's no explosion. Two innermost fans are going at full speeds. Two fans at the back are going at full speeds. There is no PWM control at all. Bummer. So that was my third configuration. Yeah. So initially I thought it seemed like the tach signal couldn't be split on the motherboard like that. So moving on, we have the fourth configuration. It looks like this. I thought, if the splitter doesn't work on the motherboard, what if I split the signal of the tach at pin 1 on the Deepcool? Could that work? And I would just put one fan on that splitter at the same time. Could that work? I thought. And I also thought I will try two different configurations here. One there and one there. And I would also try to just add the PWM headers of the AIO. So, moving on to the connection of that. Take the splitter, which I had before. And I put that to P1. And then I take the 4-pin of here. See, when I took it loose, it's easy for these to come out. So I'll just leave them in while I gently press it on. Because all the pins are there, they're just split on the 3rd pin. Like so. Like so. Just need to make sure it's connected. And then the tactical signal from the AIO, no, the CPU one goes to the motherboard. Yeah, CPU to motherboard. Like so. And then the tactical one goes to the little one. Like so. So now I have connected like I did in the first example. If you see here, I'm using the cabling here and here to connect the pin 4, 3 and 4 on the Deepcool controller. 2 fans here. So let's see what happens when we boot it up. Does it work? Maximum power on the pull. Maximum, oh, my finger. Maximum suction on the push. So, did it work? No. Result, all fans run on full speed. So I thought, okay, I need to switch it up a little because I still have these here, which I could test, which is the AIO PWMs. Turn it off. And then I move the 2 fans from here from third and fourth. I move those to AIO. Otherwise, keeping the same setup. There. Now, the setup is identical, but I am routing this cable. Instead of going to the Deepcool, it goes now to the PWM headers on the AIO with light green here, you can see. So that's the connection I have now. So let's try it. Does it work? Still no explosion. And I'm using my homemade tack splitter. So the two fans on the front are going slow, while you can hear the two fans inside the case going absolutely bananas. These two fans are seemingly getting the PWM control from the AIO, because these are the ones that are connected to the AIO. And these two are running at maximum speed. So I'm still not there. So it's turning in to be a really long experiment. So the fourth configuration was not a success using a splitter of tact. Okay, so we are going to move on to the fifth trial. In the fifth trial, I wanted to connect these two directly to the fan hub. Problem is male connector and male connector, and we all know two males, well, it depends on the situation, but yeah, two males cannot connect to males, at least not when you have pointy things in both ends. So I tried to find a female for these two gentlemen. Voila! A female, two female PWM extension cable. This was really hard to get by. It's not expensive. No, it's not expensive. It's just really hard to come by when you live in Norway. I checked every single online shop in Norway if I could get it. A couple of them had it in the inventory, but it was out of stock. And that usually means it takes forever to get it. So I started searching online. eBay. Actually, I was really surprised. You cannot get this stuff on eBay. This specific cable was almost impossible to find on eBay. Actually, I can't remember actually finding it on eBay. Male-to-male PWM connector. No, female-to-female PWM connector. Because it has to look like this in both ends. See? There you get a good view. There. It zooms in. Try to flip it. It's the one with the... like this. See? It has to have this connector in both ends. Not this connector, which is the male. Because this connector is both on the motherboard. No, it's both on the I/O cooler and on the fan hub. $2 to $8 for each of these. Depends on where you buy them online. Is it recording? Waiting for connection. I paid about 3 euros 50 per cable. This is 30 centimeters. I also have them in 60 centimeters. Hang on. So if you have really long systems, you can actually get these in 60 centimeters. The problem was I wanted 8 cables, I think it was, just to have in stock. And the shipping for this, no, I couldn't send us letter, because apparently you can't send a letter anymore. You need to send us a package, and it had to be UPS. So the price of shipping these cables was more than the cable themselves cost. So what I did was I was hoping maybe I could sell a couple, so I ordered like 20 of these 30 centimeters, and when the order was about to go through, they didn't have enough in stock, so I had 6 of those 20 exchanged for 60 centimeter ones. And it cost me like €100 in total for all the cables. I also bought some normal extension cables, 60 centimeters of the male to female, 8 of those. So everything came, and it was just a big package. Really speedy. And I bought these from highflow.nl in the Netherlands. I checked a lot of online stores and stuff, but these were the ones that looked like they were not like shabby and stuff. The cables is of a brand called Phobia, but you find them in like generic brands as well. It's not super weird or anything. Basically, if you look at the cabling here, what should have been green is red here. Let me see. Yeah, or maybe it's the yellow one. I think it's the yellow one actually. Yeah, it's the yellow one here. Should have been green, but the cabling works. So I bought those from Netherlands, Highflow NL. Thank you for that. Really good service. Sorry if this is like an advertising thing. I didn't mean to be advertising thing. I just want to tell you I got good service buying from there, and you can buy the stuff from there. And the initial setup for my configuration 5 is as follows. I would connect the fan header of the CPU of the motherboard to the fan header to the CPU header on the Deepcool. Now I would use 2 of these extension cables from the AIO PWM controller to port 1 and port 2 on the Deepcool, because after all it's the same layout of the circuits. And then I would just connect the TAC cable to another port, and I will connect all the other fans to any of these fans, because in practical use it should be the same circuit board ever, so it should just connect nicely together. So I'm going to show you now what happens when they do that. Start off with these. So I connect one of the extension cables to each of those. These are 4 pins. It just basically forwards the 4-pin connection from the AIO to the Deepcool, and that goes into fan. Let me see, what did I write here again? Yeah, I don't think it really matters. I can put the number 1 on the number 1. Number 1 to number 1. It's always a good thing to remember. Number 1 to number 1. There. You can see number 1 to number 1, and it's connected with to the AIO. Sweet! Basically just forward the signals from the AIO to the fan hub. Now I connect the FH-10 to the motherboard. Like so. Tactical goes to one of the other ports. I can put it to 5. Let's see, I can put it there. Like so. And then the rest of the fans just go beside that one. Doesn't really matter where you put it as long as you just put it. Okay, so that is now connected. You see, fans are there, tactical here. I just call it the tactical. There. And the layout is as follows. I got two female extension PWM cables, and these are really hard to get. These cables extend the signal from the AIO's male PWM sockets to the FH-10 male PWM connector, so I can connect directly to the FH-10. All fans are connected to FH-10 ports 6, 7, 8, and 9, and the tactical cable from the AIO is connected to any of the 3 ports on the FH-10. In my example, I connected it to port 10. Shouldn't really matter which one. So, what happens? Let's spin it up and see. It starts, and it dies. Why? Let's give it a second. Does anything more happen? No. It is dead. And at this point, I just turn off the computer because I don't want the CPU to burn. That could be a fire. Okay, so in this experiment, we try to just directly connect the AIO to the fan hub using female to female extension cables. And that didn't work. All fans speed up and then they just stop. So apparently it's not getting any kind of tactical signal or PWM signal that controls it. So it just dies because it doesn't really know how fast to run the fans. Okay, so in configuration 6, which I'm going to show you here, I thought, what if I tried to use the female to female adapters to the AIO, but I tried to split tac signal earlier straight on the motherboard. So I went back to that setup. As you can see here, so I will put the tac signal from the, I will split the connection here with the cable I made. Tac signal to tac on the AIO and the CPU header to the CPU header on the Deepcool. And here I will use the same configuration as before with the fans connected in an identical way. SATA power, of course, is connected here. And here is SATA power to the AIO. So, connecting the PWM cable, let's see, splitter connects to the motherboard. And then, yeah, let's see. Tactical from AIO. Gently does it. And then we'll try this goes into here to make sure the cables are not popping out, like so. Now it is connected as in the diagram here. Let's see what happens. Spins up and dies. Same as before. So this setup didn't work either. Alright, then let's move on again. Experiment or configuration number 7 I tried. Looks like this. And we have, similar to before, the CPU header goes to the CPU header on the Deepcool. No splitter. Each of the fans are connected to ports 6, 7, 8, and 9. I put the female to female extension cables to the AIO PWM connector, but I don't connect them to the number 1. I connect them to the 5 and 4 on the Deepcool, because I wanted to see what if I have this configuration that I tried before, but instead I put the TAC signal to fan header 1 on the Deepcool. So that is what I'm going to try now. So let me see. Connecting the Deepcool to CPU header, and then we have these that could go to fan, what was it again, 4 and 5. Connected on 4 and 5 on the Deepcool. And then we only have the tactical cable. I want that in the position of the first one. Like so. And then we can power it on and see how that went. Spins and stops. Spins and stops, turning off. So that didn't work either. At this point, I was kind of starting to get worried I will never get it to work, so I was almost about to give up. I took a long break for like a day, and then I was just thinking, what if I split the signals? And I went on to configuration number 8, which I'm going to show you now. So configuration 8, it looks like this. I guess you can see from the red I had a little experience. I was thinking, what if I take only one of these headers on the AIO and I take the other one to a fan? because initially the tactical signal is supposed to come directly from the fan to the AIO, but maybe that signal had to be split to the Deepcool for that signal to actually go through. So this is the test I did. I connected CPU header to Deepcool. I connected PWM port 2 on the AIO to a female-to-female extension cable, and then that extension cable I connected to port 1, which is the port on the Deepcool that controls the PWM. And then I put the tactical cable on port 5. As you can see here, it didn't really matter where it was connected, just any of the ports. And then the other 3 fans I connected to ports 6, 7, and 8. And one of the fans I connected to port 1, PWM1 on the AIO. So let's try that. We'll take the PWM2, which is the splitter. Let's see, I need to put you on the other picture first. There. So you have labels on them, so I'll use the number 2 for the extension cable in this experiment. And that should go into port 1 on the Deepcool, like so. And then the tactical cable should go into port 5. Remember to angle it when you put it, or it's really hard to get it in. Actually, on port 5 is easier because you line it up just with the edge. So it's lined up just on the edge here. So it's easier to get the socket in without having to sort of bypass one of the pins, which you have to do on this side. You have to bypass one of the pins because the small bracket you have is on the opposite side. Okay, so we have done that. You see here now, I've connected this, this, and this, and I've connected this to this. And then we just need to connect any of the fans really to the other AIO header. So we can start with maybe one of the easier ones. I think I'll start with the inner one because it shows easily when it's that. I'll take that after. And the Deepcool ones, I'll just connect those first because it's easier to get them in when they are the first one connected. Six, 7, and 8 port on the Deepcool, and lastly the PWM1 on the fan header, like so. So here we have connected this fan. Actually, it's this fan, but it doesn't really matter. It's this, and this should be serial connected now to this one should be connected to this. So when I start it up now, we should see one fan spin up. Let's see. Both of them spins, all of them spins. The 2 on the front stops, this one stop, this one is still going. But look now, after about 10 seconds, this one starts. These 2 at the back also starts. It looks like it stopped because it's spinning. and they are all settling at RPM speeds equivalent to the first one we connected to the AIO. So all fans are now running pwm controlled by the AIO. How cool is that? First connection that actually worked. So my initial thought is that when you connect it like this, the first fan gets the tactical signal, and it sends that signal, it goes through the AIO, and it takes a few seconds before that sort of goes through the other three fans which get the tactical signal, and then just ramp up their speed to match the first fan. Inside the AIO, and now the iCUE software on the computer, you will see that it is showing about 1000 to 1200 RPM idle. I will put an insert of video here to show that later. I can put that now. So I have to admit, after I got the 8th configuration of this thing working, I was kind of ecstatic. What Corsair said was not possible, I actually managed to get working. So the I/O is actually controlling all the fans with this setup. And I think the reason for that is that the fan is sending a signal to the I/O. The I/O sort of connects that signal to the FH-10, and it gets a confirmation of that signal from the TAC connection here. So it's like a loop almost. And I'm thinking that the reason it didn't work with the splitter is probably because the TAC signal was maybe syncing in on itself, so it caused the fans not to work. But I wanted to try one more thing, and that was, what if I just swapped these two here? Here, these two connections. What if I swap those over so the fan is connected to the opposite one of what I used earlier? If you see here, this is the previous configuration 8 where the fan was connected to pin 1 and this is where the fan is connected to pin 2 in the next configuration, and then the pin 1, which is normally I would think would be the controller of the PWM, would sort of send the best controlling signal to the port 1 here, which is opposed to the rest of the controlling signal in the FH-10. So I'm gonna do a swap now and test that. So we're removing this, which is the TAC cable, and I'm placing that onto the one I have here. And then I'm putting the extension that you see here, putting that on the I/O instead. And let's see if it starts. If everything is correct, this one should start, the other one should spin, then stop, and then start again, I hope. So this one has now stopped. Same with the two on the front. This one is still spinning, and this one starts up, and the two on the front are starting up as well. So the when you reverse these cables here on the I/O, it still works, but the system is more quiet now than with the opposite setting. So I'm gonna take you into the screen of this computer now. We're gonna check the I/O speeds, PWM speed, sorry. So as you can see here, the fans are running a lot slower with the I/O on the first point, versus where the extension cable was used on the FH-10. So it's only at 400 to 500 rounds per minute in this setting. And that's default startup. Remember here before it actually was like 800 or 900. Now I actually found a different way to also do this, but it totally excludes the Deepcool FH-10 altogether, so I'm going to show you that one as well. So in the 10th configuration, I will eliminate this entirely. So I'll just disconnect that. I can still use 4 fans, but I'll show you why. There. That one is disconnected, and we take the TAC controller. Now we'll disconnect all the fans, and I'll remove the FH from there. This one is still connected to power, so I'll just leave it here for now, but I'll show you. The other way to do this is, to be honest, this is the best way to do it when you only want to use 4 fans. When you only want to use the 4 fans in a push-pull configuration, and you don't want to have PWM on the chassis fans, then just use this version if you can. It's kind of bulky because what you will need is 2 of these. These are Noctua PWM splitters, and you can see here it's Chromax red. It's the exact specification is this, and you can usually buy this when you buy the Chroma one. You can buy them like in a pack of 3, and it costs about 10 to 12 euros. And what is the thing here is that you see that on one side you have 4 pins. On the other side you have 3 pins. And the reason for that is that each of the fan headers here will grab the 4-pin and then send the TAC signal, or they will share the TAC signal on each splitter. So it will go through the system and you will get it. So I will connect this here, and the other one I will connect here. So literally you can connect 4 fans to this now, and they will all use PWM. Now, because of the setup of the system, you will need to put this TAC on the CPU header on the motherboard. So the setup is like that. And then you just connect each of the fans to each of their own headers. I'll connect the number, where's the number one? That's the number one. The thing with this setup is that the system will recognize something is connected to both of the fan headers on the system. So you see here I connected all the 4 fans. So it will register as connected fans here and here. They will register it as 2 fans, not 4. So it's basically 2 fan is seen as 1 here and 2 fans are seen as 1 here. That also means that the tax signal can balance against each other here, which again will cause the I/O to better be able to balance the tax signal and the PWM. So I'm now going to start it up without the system, but before that I'm going to show you how the actual configuration look again, so you remember. So we start off with connecting the tax signal here to the cable, and then you put the Y splitters on each of the PWM ports on the AO, the controller, and then you just connect each of the fans to the ports here. And of course you need to connect SATA power. And then when you start it, all fans speed up, and because it can actually read the tax signal immediately, none of the fans will stop. They will all start with PWM mode. And I'm now going to show you inside on this machine how it looks like. So you can see here, I can barely hear the machine now compared to before. See there, it spins up a little bit. So with this setup like this, you can see that the system is registering 2 fans. It's currently running kind of hot because it hasn't stabilized quite yet. Set to quiet, but if you go in here on performance, you can set it to be quiet. Now it's set to balanced, that's why it's kind of high, you see. And click that to balance, and then back to quiet, and you will see that RPMs will go down a bit, because it can actually match the PWM and fan speed to each of those sides. But what you see here is that the temperature is more or less the same actually, because the fans are running in roughly the same configuration. It's actually kind of high now, maybe because it's warm in the room. The ambient temperature is kind of high. But yeah, that sort of proves that you can also use it like this with the splitters. Problem is that you would need to try and hide the splitters under or somewhere, which can be kind of difficult. Now you see I have kind of a short cabling here, but you can readjust that and just hide it somewhere, maybe under here, or yeah. So it is possible to have 4 fans all of them PWM controlled if you use splitters, or if you use the DeepCool FH-10 with the Corsair H100 RGB XT. So thank you for watching. This was Toffee Service, and please put a like and feel free to comment below. Until next time, bye bye.